Welcome, everybody, to We the Parents podcast. This is episode 14, and my guest is Summer O'Brien. Summer, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing good, Chris. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you. I got to see you on another podcast the other day. I listened to the entire thing twice, and got to hear a lot about what you're going through, what you advocate for, who you are. But why don't you introduce to my audience who you are? And also, I know you mentioned, and we hadn't talked about this earlier, but you sort of work with NPO as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, yep. So right now, currently, I'm an advocate for a national parents organization. Recently, just as in the past couple days, we formed a New York State coalition called Families for Tomorrow, and that's the NPO, Americans for Equal and Shared Parenting, Fathers Rights Movement, and Fathers Families New York, and along with Amazing Mothers Without Custody. So we took all those groups and we kind of formed this I call it mega pack here in New York, just
Yeah,
so we can make more of an impact, hopefully.
I know every single one of those groups.
Yeah, great.
That's good stuff.
Great.
So the community is building. What is it that you think we're running into? I mean, we know what it is. You talked a little bit about it on the other show that you were on. With all these groups and all these parents, and we're talking thousands and thousands, if not millions. There's thousands of, like, I would say, people like you and me who are out advocating, either doing podcasts, speaking out, doing rallies, protesting, whatever it is. And then there's millions that are suffering, that are following us, that are, you know, wanting some change. And at the end of the day, I don't know if they're waiting for you and me and the select few of us that they're seeing on the screen or whatever make this change, but there are millions of parents that want this to change. And unfortunately, our government's not doing its job.
Yeah. So, there are millions. It affects millions of families across the country. You're right with the millions. And everything from, again, we all talk about it. We know the stats. We know what is happening. We know that poverty, substance abuse, dropout rates, teen pregnancy, all of
All
it can be equated to poor custody outcomes.
social dysfunctions, the things that we're either medicating our kids for, addiction issues, the mental health issues, behavioral issues, everything that we're creating new industries for, right? To save them,
Exactly.
we're
Exactly.
creating through this divorce culture, this trauma culture, this custody culture, where we're removing parents from a children's life, and we just think that it's not affecting them.
Right.
um what
It's becoming natural. It's
Mhm.
becoming mainstream natural to have a dysfunctional family, because after all, we can't have healthy children coming up, like you said, or else we'd have no need for these agencies and these programs to run. They
Right,
would go broke.
right. So they're protecting their industries, and we're talking about how many different industries. We're talking about a legal industry. We're talking about, now you are a paralegal, and you
Mhm.
work in the family court, or have worked in the family court realm, with other, I guess, other law firms. I know you mentioned recently that you're sort of, on a hiatus right now with everything that's going on with COVID. Um, but tell us what you learned working in the family law realm, and maybe you worked for one of the good ones. There are some good ones
Yeah.
out there that
Oh,
aren't just
absolutely.
taking your money, but they're taking your money and they're doing their job.
Yeah, yeah. So I worked for a woman attorney here in Rochester, New York. She was great.
Yeah.
She was well rounded. She was a family woman. She was religious. She had a good office. She actually, took on some civil cases for some unfortunate events that happened to some families around the Rochester area. But I remember this one instance where she had a client, a woman who was coming in for a divorce. She did a lot of divorce cases, coming in for a divorce. I was going through her paperwork. I was doing her financial statements. I was gathering all her tax returns, everything like that. I was to meet with her, with the client that day, to get some signatures and everything. And as I'm meeting with her, just going over financials. So it's a very preliminary part of the divorce, in very
Right.
early stages of a divorce. And while I'm sitting with her and talking with her about her finances, she starts bringing up custody. And she's like, well, I need to talk to the attorney because I really want to make sure she understands I want sole custody. I really want to make sure this is down in writing right now, early on. I want to make sure
Right.
everybody knows. So, needless to say, I ended that meeting very abruptly, very professionally, but abruptly.
Sure.
And
Sure.
took my paperwork, went into her office, put it down, and the attorney I worked for, she was great at, understanding what I was going through as a stepmom at, at the time, just a girlfriend with my fiance and his situation. So she's like, Summer, you don't have to work on this case if you don't want to, because I was blowing smoke.
Yeah.
With this lady. How dare she come in here and just, we're not talking about that right now. It's not really appropriate. So there are, in family law, you see everything from, the people that we're trying to help with this cause, right? We're trying to educate families. I think educating families is probably the most important aspect we could be doing right now.
Right.
I want to educate women. Don't go for full custody. You're not going for sole custody. Share the kids. Help them. That's and I just wish, but when you're working for someone, like you said, the legal industry, when you're working and being paid for someone to represent their interests, you can't say that.
Right. Well, and it's funny too. It's like they talk about the best interest of the child, yet we're clearly fighting for a parent's interests. It has nothing to do with the child. One parent is saying, I want what's fair. The other one's saying no. I mean, where's the red flags, kids? It doesn't take a legal genius. I think the problem is we have the wrong industry involved in the wrong issue. This shouldn't be a legal matter at all, because there should be a standard. We talk about shared parenting as a standard. And if there is a legal issue that needs to be addressed, that's what criminal courts are for. And that's really what they're educated in. And that's really what they should be dealing with, is if there is domestic violence. Not let's state the obvious and realize that two people broke up, which probably means it was adversarial and people said mean things. And as long as no one broke the law, being mean is not illegal. Being a jerk is not illegal. Cheating on someone is not illegal. It's terrible and it's immoral, but it doesn't bear any weight. And I'm not condoning any of that behavior. I'm not approving of it. What I'm saying is that when it comes to children, none of those things should be discussed in front of a criminal court system, because that's what it still is. It's still very much criminal court. I was almost held in contempt, for an email that wasn't derogatory. It just made the judge upset. And I was like a little taken back, and I don't want to say anything bad about the judge. I'm in the middle of my stuff, but it was for a moment there, if I'm honest, and if he was to see this, that's not okay with me. It's not okay that you threaten contempt because I was a little lengthy on an email. That's not contempt worthy.
Yeah.
Yet I'm not a criminal.
What do they always say? They always say when you're going through divorce or custody cases with someone, that you should always communicate with the other person like a judge is going to read this in a courtroom.
Right.
That's what they say. Right. That's like the golden advice they can give you. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm not inviting a courtroom into my personal life.
No. And that's the thing. It's like, who gave them the power? I'm pretty sure we didn't give them the power. They created this industry, these legislators who are also attorneys, who, the Bar Association, they created a system that has funneled us into a cash cow business for them. And get into that. Like let's talk about you have tons of experience, both from as a stepmom whose husband is going through this stuff. So you deal with it on that end. You became a paralegal. Is that because of this?
No, actually, I became a paralegal before all of our, say, family court trouble began.
Yeah.
I was actually in school. I started school briefly after I met him almost 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And then I can go down the timeline here, but everything was going great. And the only reason everything was going great because he was living the life his ex wanted him to live, right? He was newly divorced.
Uh-huh.
He was just finishing up college, nursing school, and he was living with his mom because he just got divorced. So, he was really satisfying her ego at
Mm-hmm.
that moment. And then we met. I owned my own house. I had 2 children. I was going to school also. We met and everything started going really well. Well, we decided to buy a house together. And when we put our resources, effort, and intelligence together, we bought this beautiful home out in the country for our kids and for our future. And literally 2 months, 3 months after we moved in together, she started filing.
And we know what that is. Like, I mean, anyone in our I say our field, any of the psychologists that work with us alongside of us know what this is. This is retaliative. It's abusive. It's controlling. But how come when we go into a courtroom, the judge can't, just see what's going on here? Wait a minute, you did this after the fact, or you started acting this way?
Right.
Oh, the allegation occurred after he split up with you. Why didn't you leave him before? Like, there, and false allegations. That's another. I mean, we could do that for a whole show.
Yeah.
But
well, that's exactly what happened in my case, where we were living together for almost 3 years. I've been around these children for 4 or 5 years at this point. And then the allegations came that I was mentally abusive to the children. After all that time.
Yeah, and it's usually after you've upset them, after you've sort of put your foot down, either walked away. And I mean, it happened with me when I finally stood up for myself and stopped doing the insanity. That's when the insanity came to me.
Yeah.
And any I mean, I don't have to know anything about the law, and I can understand that. Oh, that's just retaliation.
Yeah. Well,
he upset her, or she upset him, and they're just saying this now.
They get upset, and in my case, it was because I kicked the kids out of the house. It was a summer day, and I kicked the kids out of the house to go play. And my stepkids didn't like that. They contacted their mother, and unlike an adult, where you rationalize your feelings as an adult to settle yourself for your children, she fed into the hysteria of my stepmom kicked me out of the house on a summer day,
right?
And chimed it as mental abuse on the petition, her most recent petition for court.
Yeah, it seems that parenting styles are being used as abuse.
Yes.
I know a friend of mine, Cash Jackson. His kids. He made them do push-ups. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
I punished my kid with exercise. So child abuse is anything.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right with the parenting styles. It's noted in his my fiance's court decisions too, that there's different parenting styles, which is fine. The judge accepts that. What he doesn't accept is us supposedly calling my stepson fat because he's overweight. But we don't call him fat. Okay. What we do instead is we don't let him eat pizza rolls for breakfast.
You're addressing that he's overweight by talking about his diet and what he should and shouldn't eat. Yes. Yeah, you're not like, hey, you're a fatty. You're like, hey, bud, you need to eat better.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, what is going on? No wonder these kids are whiny, crazy people that don't know if they're a boy or a girl, or if, what is going on.
Yeah, it's all. And then, he gets on the phone with his mom because there's some alienation going on. And he gets on the phone and says, Summer won't feed me.
Oh my God.
That's what it comes down to. And then his grandma gets involved. His grandma texts him, "Oh, I'm so sorry, you poor boy. Please just try to eat something and you'll be home soon." Quote. That's a quote from a text.
What the kids are learning to do is take advantage of the chaos between the
Oh,
parents. So
oh,
they're
yeah.
in survival mode. So they've realized that, I mean, this is where they're learning it from. This is, my kids have manipulative moments. And it doesn't mean they're not kids, but I call them on their crap. I'm like, nope.
Yeah,
But I was a
absolutely.
kid once. I know exactly what you're doing. And I have really good kids for the most part. But you see that they're in this fear mode, this anxiety mode, this survival mode
Mhm.
of being between two parents and playing sides. And they
Yeah,
learn to do this. And what they don't realize, what they're doing, sometimes kids will say things that you're like you said, well, he's saying we call them fat. So they reinterpret how they need to twist it so that they can get what they want. So the
right.
kid just wants what they want. So and they're not even really cognitive or mature enough to understand the level of seriousness of the things that they're saying or the way they're twisting the words, and it just it creates this drama, and then these courts make terrible decisions.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And you know, in regards to children, just they shouldn't have to be in that fight or flight mode
Right.
all the time. That,
Right.
like you said, that is not healthy. You wonder
Right.
why we have obesity is skyrocketing.
Hmm.
We have children from a young age eating their feelings,
Right.
and because they're riddled with anxiety and they're riddled with feelings of doubt and loneliness,
Right.
because there's no substance to the relationships that they're having.
Right.
um, you know that's one of the things is with a lack of shared parenting. What that also brings is a lack of organic interactions with your parents.
Hmm.
Everything is
Oh yeah.
planned, everything is structured because of the limited time slot that fathers get with their kids,
Hmm.
so nothing can develop naturally. So the kids have anxiety leading up to that event. The father has anxiety leading up to that event. And
Hmm.
the whole thing, if one thing goes wrong, which let's in families it goes wrong a lot,
Yeah.
the whole event, the whole day could be ruined because of it, because of the high expectations on that visitation.
I can tell you that it makes me sad, but unfortunately at this time it's necessary that when my ex now comes to pick up my kids, and she's brought it to this level, I will not take responsibility for her behavior anymore. I'm responsible for mine. I try my best not to be responsive in a negative way, although sometimes I do get my digs in there. Sometimes I do tell jokes.
Oh, yeah.
I do
This
say little sarcastic things, but that's, I mean, maybe that's the way I cope. But I'm not. I try not to be cruel. I try not to be condescending or she puts me in very difficult positions with the lies and things that she does and says. And then, when I get my kids are spouting things out. Well, I need to address things, but I don't want to badmouth their mother, but I have to say things like, baby, that's not true. I don't know why mommy said that to you. I will speak to her about it. No, I don't speak to her about it
right.
because I know that whatever's going on that end is nothing. She doesn't want to hear from me.
Hmm.
She's not going to talk to me. There's no rational conversation. It's all defense, fight or flight. And I know the more that I engage, the more harm that I put myself in with allegations, this, that, and the other thing. So
Oh,
even
absolutely.
when she comes to pick them up, at this point, I used to walk them to the car and make it as pleasant as possible, limited eye contact, but just focus on the kids and make it like mommy and daddy are at least okay.
Hmm.
But I've had a few interactions with her new fiance and this and that. I kiss them at the door and let them walk to their mother because
Yeah.
I can't put myself at that risk. And that's terrible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is. It doesn't benefit anyone
And
when
and they
the
know
situation
it.
like that.
They
Oh, yeah.
they see that. Why doesn't daddy walk us to the car anymore? I'm just like, all right, guys, bye from a
Yeah.
distance.
They feel it. They know what's going on. And
Hmm.
you know, uh good example of that is we signed our stepdaughter up for soccer over the summer, and she loved it. She had such a good time, first time playing soccer.
Mhm.
And we had all the kids there, and my stepson texted his mother and said, "Hey, are you going to come watch your daughter play soccer?"
Yeah.
And she says, "No, I'm not going to show up because they'll make you uncomfortable," to the child.
Uh,
So she put the
put that
accountability
on.
on the
Yeah.
child that, if she shows up, he's going to feel uncomfortable. And that's why she can't be there to watch her, his sister play soccer.
That's wrong.
You talk about holding it back. And,
Mm.
I really have a hard time sometimes, which is understandable. I'm sure a lot of parents do. I talk to a lot of parents on the phone, and
Mhm.
they tell me what they're going through, and they tell me things that, any normal person would have a very hard time restraining themselves. So I give everybody who's not in jail or anything like major props right now.
Let's dive into that. I thought about this. I think about this every day. But since you just said I give props to parents that are not in jail right now,
Yeah.
let's talk about realistically, definitively, legally, what is happening here. And this is by definition, I don't care if our government's doing it. Our government works for me and it works for you, and it's not doing a good job. So I like to reiterate that. But they are stealing our children. They're not experts in what's happening, so they shouldn't be making these decisions. But they're taking our money, they're taking our children, and we are supposed to act as if that's not abusive, traumatic. Like you said, do you have any idea? I'm sure you do. And a lot of people are watching the amount of prayer, gym visits,
Mhm.
uh, doing my best to stay away from substances, because not coping with that. The amount of restraint and discipline and patience that I've learned, and this has been the worst thing outside of maybe a death of a family. Sometimes it feels worse, or an illness, something like that. But to have your kids taken from you and be drugged through this process without any accountability in the process. So besides shared parenting, if there is a custody issue that needs to be worked out, we need to set a time limit on that, and we need to get rid of all the legal jargon and the legal filings that can elongate this situation. Why am I fighting? Why have I only seen my kids an average of 60 days a month, or I'm sorry, a year, for the last almost 3 years?
That's a good
You
point.
haven't taken my rights.
No.
I can have more kids. As you know, I can be a step parent.
Yep.
I can open up a daycare.
Yep.
I can do anything. I can go to elementary school. You took my kids away, but you didn't take you're not charging me with anything. You've not told me I need a vasectomy so that you know what I mean? So where is the logic in these systems? I can't be smarter than a judge or an attorney, right? You and I can't be more intelligent than them.
We could be.
We might be. I think it's like another day at work for them.
I've met some doozies in my time in the field. I've definitely met some doozies.
You're like, where's your logic?
Yeah, it's unbelievable to me. And I know I was speaking with a gentleman, and you bring up a good point too, is he lost his kids. He hasn't seen his kids in over a decade. And the final nail in the coffin was that George ordered him to stay away and cease all communication with his kid. But yeah, he's a foster parent to 2 kids.
Exactly. So they didn't take his legal rights away. That's like convicting someone of a crime but allowing them to commit it somewhere else.
Yeah, it's disgusting and it's unjust. And the judicial overreach in instances like that should definitely be reviewed.
And I
by
speak with
someone.
I speak with attorneys all the time, some locally around here, and I'm telling them, "Hey guys, can you help me? You know me, you know my kids. Yeah, I really can't do that, and I haven't seen what you're experiencing. Really, I'm telling you, I'm experiencing it, and you're not even willing to help me." And
They
I'm like,
all have
"Hey,
seen it.
can I hire you? There's a conflict of interest," and I was like, "You don't do this for kids.
Yeah,
You don't do this to help anyone."
no, they've all been through it. They've seen everything. They're like doctors, right? They've seen it all. They've heard it
Mhm.
all. It's no different. And I had two AFCs actually here in Rochester. They split the kids up, which I was so grateful for, and gave them
Yeah.
each their own attorneys. And which I recommend fighting for that if you have kids that with a significant age difference there. And they split the attorneys. Well, let me tell you, one attorney for the oldest child, he never contacted us. He never contacted his father. He never met with him. Just went through the mother. Just that was it.
Where's the
That's
accountability?
not just none. The other attorney for the youngest was wonderful. She showed up. She had a Zoom meeting with her client, the
Mhm.
daughter, while she was with dad and while she was with mom. She talked to dad separately on the phone and talked to mom on the phone separately. And, her thoroughness came through during trial.
Mhm.
She sounded intelligent. She had, substance to her testimony and substance to her report of what really is the best interest of this child.
Right, put in the effort, put in the thought.
Yes, don't just be a cog in the machine of, the county rubber stamping your paycheck at
God.
the end of the week. These are children we are dealing with
Mhm.
here. They're the most valuable assets to society, and in the product we're pumping out is, not healthy. It's not going good.
What, like, going back to your comment about jail, you're surprised most of us haven't, like, flipped our, like, there are days where I didn't know, like, I'm gonna eat, I need to fight for my kids. I need to protect them. Like, 200 years ago, I could have gone over to her house and beat up everybody and protected my children, right? No one's going to convict me of a crime because this is parental kidnapping.
Right.
Now, there are all sorts of laws that don't look like they protect an abuser, but what they do is they make it very watered down, very financially incentivized. A lot of it's paperwork and procedure. And well, if you're going to do this, then you're going to do that. They make it hard to be a pro se litigant. They force you to hire an attorney, which means if they make it hard to be a pro se litigant and they make you afford an attorney, and let's say you could afford one for 10 grand or 20 grand, and then you still are going through it because that other parent's keeping it going with her attorney, well, then you have to walk away for your children. This is the only way, besides being a pro se litigant and starting a podcast. If you would have asked me 10 years ago, you're going to start a podcast and talk about the theft of your children by your United States government or your North Carolina state government judicial system, I would have been like, what?
Yeah.
Why? I would never be doing this. This doesn't happen.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's the reality. And 200 years ago, like you said, I mean, you could have just went in there and had her committed to an insane asylum for hysteria.
Men were able to protect their kids just as moms
Yep.
were.
Well,
We
they're
didn't.
property. Children have always been looked at as assets in this
Right.
country. Don't
And
let
not
don't let it fool you.
right.
They are not individuals to mold and shape into members of society. Children are assets. And
We
even though they've put it in there, through cushy parenting books and magazines, they are still an asset. And this asset is going to be used until they're 18 or 21 years old.
right.
They're going to get the most out of that asset,
Right.
just like anyone would. And so men and women, they fight over the asset. It's always been about fighting over the asset. either be it
Yeah.
children or a house or a car. And, with going back to the jail issue, what happens when you don't invest into your asset, like in child support? You can go to jail.
Right. Yeah.
So they're
Yeah.
forcing you also to invest in your asset, and they're forcing you to play into the asset instead of just walking away and saying, hey, I don't want this asset anymore.
Right. Right.
You really have no choice. It's a lose-lose situation.
You can walk away from any other asset, but you can't walk away from
Right.
this asset. They monetize this asset for the determined 18-year number that they created. Kids are now adults at 18. Oh, but wait, let's throw college in there. If they want to go to college, you got to pay for this, that, and the other thing. Meanwhile, people are being put on child support orders that financially took care of their kids. So the purpose of child support is long away from its intent. And what it was designed for was to hold parents accountable. But parents who have never left their responsibility are being stripped from their responsibility in order to pay this extortion money.
Yeah. And
I've always paid for my children.
Well, in one way or another, right? Why does
Right.
Why does it have to be monetary?
Look, I just broke up with their mom. Let me go get a house. They can come live with me, and we're all good. Oh no, wait. Let's cause a shitstorm of doubt, or with a preponderance of evidence, zero anything. But meanwhile, I can't call CPS and say, hey, there's this abusive, angry, drunken guy that lives at my house or my ex's house with the kids, and I'm concerned about that. Well, until something happens to them, we really can't do anything. But you can take them from me when nothing's happened.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And they will.
What?
They will. And,
I mean, sometimes Summer, I've definitely thought about, as a man, as a father, and I guess sort of in that fake, I don't want to say that heroic, aspect of doing what's right, and I need to do more. I need to push harder, and then everyone's like, "Watch what you do, watch what you say. They'll throw you in jail. The judge isn't in a good mood." That's what my mom said to me when we were in court, when I got threatened with contempt, and I said. And I said, Mom, I didn't do anything wrong. I don't give it what mood he's in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And part of me knows I'm right, and the other part of me knows she's right.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't be threatened. None of us should be threatened with jail for doing our God-given inheritance right of protecting our kids.
Yeah. And I'm the same way too. If I'm put in a tough situation where my back's up against the wall and it's either punishment or compliance, that I know something deep in my heart is not right.
Right.
I'll put I'll put the cuffs on myself.
Yeah, you just said it. You just said it. I know that there's something wrong. That if it is punishment or compliance, that's how you know that it's not.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Libertarians always say you don't have to convince someone of a good idea with punishment. Like, if it's a good idea, then people will do it.
Right. And we shouldn't have absolutes either.
Right.
Especially when it comes to the family structure. Nothing is absolute in family. It changes day-to-day basis. At any given time, I could have 4 kids in this house. It's a lot different than the days I have none.
Yeah, there are two things. There's one thing that the government should assist in, and when I say assist, that means like I mentioned earlier, abuse, physical abuse, any type of abuse, and we need to define abuse a little bit better. There is emotional abuse, which means we don't need judges deciding it. We need therapists, psychologists deciding it. What that is. Parental alienation is abuse. One side of the aisle who's profiting off it says it's not, because let's be honest, if we just say it's not and we keep allowing the behavior, we're going to have more clients to fix, as long as we don't get to the root of the issue. And this type of trauma, this destruction in a family, you can't help that maybe mom and dad break up, but you can focus on salvaging that child's well-being and the well-being of both parents by taking out the incentive and taking out the high conflict, but it doesn't do that, you know?
No, it doesn't. And it should. Here in New York, I believe that all these issues should be handled in the Supreme Court where divorce takes place. And anything thereafter as a result of something extraordinary happening should be handled in family court. Family
Mhm.
court shouldn't be the go-to. Family court right now is like McDonald's,
Right.
and where
That
anybody can
anybody
go
can
in,
just file a motion and just keep it
walk in,
going.
file it, and they don't even read them. They just
Mhm.
give you a date.
Right.
So that burden, like you're saying, the burden to change a order, like for custody, is substantial change in circumstance.
Right.
Well, after some research and studying, my interpretation of change in circumstance based off case law was a lot different than Judge Thomas Polito here in Monroe County's,
Right.
interpretation of change in circumstance to hear a
Yeah.
petition.
Right.
Way different.
Right. And change of
It,
circumstance should be interpreted by the best interest of the child, and change of circumstance should be interpreted by the people who are complaining, not the judge.
yeah.
There is no we're not telling the judge how to raise their kid.
And same thing with abuse, with domestic abuse. There's
Mhm.
some of the loudest, opponents of any shared parenting or any kind of change to custody laws in this country.
Yeah.
They're a $6 billion a year industry.
Right.
Of course they're going to be loud. They
Right.
showed up in Texas recently
Dysfunction
to,
makes money, not
yeah,
health, not well-being, and
right.
everything is about destroying people and then saving them and acting as if they care about us. I'm telling you, it's anywhere from pharmaceuticals to the mental health. Not to say that therapy is not a good thing. Unfortunately, we need it now. But we could probably start weaning ourselves off of therapy when we get rid of a lot of horrible domestic policy.
Yeah. And I think if you're going the divorce route and you're in Supreme Court, I had a couple attorneys tell me when I was going through divorce, when I was interviewing attorneys, that if there was domestic abuse of any kind, now is the time, because if you don't bring it up in divorce, you can't bring it up later on down the road.
Right.
It's now or never.
Right.
So the problem we're having is 1 in 4 children now are born out of wedlock. So they're
Yeah.
not even getting the opportunity to go through that higher court for relief.
Right.
And so they're going through the McDonald's drive-through
Mhm.
at their county family court. And
Mhm.
in New York, there's a bill that we're trying to get through that addresses the abuse claims. We want something that puts a time limit on when these claims can be investigated and when there'll be a determination in order to move forward.
Right.
You want to claim abuse down the road in family court. Okay, you claim abuse, but that judge should have only 30 days to make a determination if that's
Right.
founded or not.
Yeah, regulating me to every other weekend to my children, and forcing me to pay over half my income in child support, is abuse.
Yeah.
Period.
Well,
Anybody would say it is, but because our government thinks it's okay to abuse us, no, they're held to a higher standard.
oh,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I mean, just now got so frustrated that I didn't have any words anymore, and the words that I had were I was trying to not say them.
Yeah. No, Chris, lately I've been reading some orders from judges, from people that I've been talking to and reaching out to, and they're sending me orders that I could read. There are some of them that leave me speechless.
Right,
Some of them have made me cry
right,
as a parent, as a professional.
right,
It was devastating. And I just can't believe we're at this level of government involvement in our families
right,
when there's solutions. There's really good, solid solutions out there. I just saw in Oklahoma, I think it was today or yesterday, They passed a bill for the findings of facts and law and conclusion,
Yeah.
which is
Mm-hmm.
like the reasoning behind what the judge's order was about.
Right.
And that's going to the governor's desk. That's amazing. That's a step.
Right.
You know, the momentum is getting there.
Right.
It's getting there. And I
Well,
tell everybody to one step at a time, right? Let's get shared parenting. That's my number one priority, is to get kids back with their parents.
mm-hmm.
You should start there, get kids back with their parents to start reconnecting and
Yeah.
to start forming those relationships. Then you know what? We could start on child support. That in itself is, that could take 5 years to hammer out the details of that.
Child support is such a racket.
Oh, it blows my mind. I mean, the government can't run the U.S. Postal Service, but they got that one down to a key, don't they?
We're just I mean, the honestly, like, I don't understand why anyone votes Republican or Democrat. I say get rid of them all. Get rid of them all. They're not doing a good job. We're going further into debt. People are unhealthier. They're going crazy. Divorce rates are high. This is all due to government. They're acting like they're going to fix something that they caused. I don't know why people think that they can vote their way into change when you're still voting in the same cogs and the same beast. And ultimately, they're not the ones who run this country. The ones who run this country is the money. It's all money. So it's industry that runs this country, which is illegal. You know what I mean? We're making domestic policy based on industries. We're creating industries to save us instead of going, look, here's the research. You can't go on YouTube right now, not see this podcast and thousands and thousands, if not more than that, of other conversations, experts, data, period. All signs point to this is a major issue. This should be the number one issue in America.
Yeah.
We want to make America healthy. It starts at the root. The family is the root. Now over time, maybe marriage and relationships will help heal and repair, and people will stay together and they'll learn how to stay together. But we've created this, I can hop on Tinder right now if my girlfriend's pissing me off and find someone new to love, right? And that's how I deal with everything. And there's no accountability to anything. And then our kids suffer for that.
And then the industry gives you a golden, easy way out with divorce with irreconcilable differences. You don't even have to come up with a reason anymore, to go through that process of leaving someone. So they're really making it easier and easier for people to go on their way, but make sure we maintain those assets. We can't let go of those assets. I was going to say here in New York, our politicians, like you said, they're voted in. They work for us. You wouldn't think that.
Not based on the results.
No, we were in Albany. A group of us were in Albany on April 16th with the Dad Talk Today show. Not one politician was there.
Right.
It was a Wednesday or Thursday, I think.
Yeah.
And no one was around. Gated up Capitol. No one was around. We made probably close to 50 calls to senators and assembly people. No one answered. No,
I can't get a hold of a lot of them too.
Yeah. So no one's showing up. And like you said, this should be the number one issue for public health right now.
We know what it's doing.
Yes, it is the cause of so many issues.
You want to talk about, let's talk about opioids. Okay.
Yes.
Well, where is the opioid crisis? What's causing it? Okay. Trauma.
Abuse. Yes.
Addiction issues. What's causing addiction issues? Broken families, abuse, real abuse.
Yes.
Not,
abuse.
So the fact that we're being ignored, which means it's one of two things, maybe three. They're uneducated and ignorant. They know exactly what they're doing, or they don't care. It's one of those three.
I think it's a combination of three.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, you talk about, libertarian principles, I consider myself to be a moderate, and not because of the categorized, issues or platforms, but because like I said earlier about the punishment or compliance, if I'm looking at a policy or if I'm looking at a law or a social issue and it feels right in my heart
Mm-hmm.
and it's just the right thing to do, I don't care who's bringing it to a table. A conservative Republican can be sponsoring it, or a Democratic liberal could be sponsoring it. And I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to want to get on board with that because it's a good
Absolutely.
idea.
Yeah.
And we're really struggling right now to find bipartisan support, which is shocking.
Right.
It's absolutely shocking to me that we don't have bipartisan support on shared parenting bills right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we're really trying to drum that up here in New York. But like I said, no one's answering their phones.
Like, well, it almost seems like just with all this COVID nonsense and everything else that they want us to assemble and riot. I think they want us to riot because then that puts another agenda. You know what I mean? You're stealing our kids. We're really trying to do it peacefully. We're doing the work. We're doing it by the books.
Mhm.
We're doing it the way you want us to do it. You're ignoring us. And then, so if we hit the streets and protest, we could either be arrested or silenced. And again, going back to what you said, it if it's a good idea and we're being told that we're going to be punished if we pursue it, we have an issue. And I think government has gotten to that point where we're gonna turn the pressure up on people. If they misbehave in response, we will spin the narrative that these parents are abusive, hostile, angry people. Meanwhile, it's just like any abusive person. If you look at a psychologist would tell you that abusive people will poke, prod, abuse, shame, whatever, and then they will jump on your response as if you are the abusive person.
Oh, absolutely.
So when you finally have had enough and you finally assert yourself, they go, look at him over there. Look at her over there. Look what they are doing. They're monsters.
Yeah, and
well, who created that?
We know instances like that are, it's not a gender issue either, right? We know that, women are deemed crazy and insane if they're passionate about something, and we know men are deemed angry and aggressive if they're passionate
so angry
about something.
I'm so angry.
So it's like I said, it's a lose-lose situation. Every road leads to a lose-lose situation when you're talking about family court or government interference in families. It's always a lose-lose situation,
right?
No matter the topic. Always lose-lose.
So with your experience as a mother, a stepmother, an activist in shared parenting, and in the legal realm as a paralegal, and having worked in family court, and you're also, you mentioned, what was the other thing? And pardon me for forgetting. I think I just got too excited. You're what was your major?
Yeah, it's public policy major.
Public policy major. So explain to the audience what that is a little bit, because I don't know much either. So
yeah, so it's a double major from public affairs. So it's dealing with public entities, and with the policy aspect of it, it's really just studying how policies affect society, cost benefit analysis, how to implement them. Is it necessary? What groups does it affect? How to write them? How to draft them? How to sell them? Per se. And so that's what it's all about right there. And
are you going to run for office?
I want to. Yes.
Yeah. Is that what this is building to for you? Do you feel that people like you and me who actually understand more than the people who are in office, because we've been forced to educate ourselves because we've gone through a wronging by our government. I wasn't political 3 years ago, and now I'm very educated. And I can't get enough, because I want to use it. I want to wield it. The truth is all we have. Logic is all we have. Reason is all you and I have. So if you spend your time investing in yourself, obviously you're a very moral and ethical human being. You seem to have a good emotional head on your shoulder, and I tell you what, life has definitely tried to remove our sanity. uh, and that's why we do things like this. We speak, we help each other through these things. This is therapy for me, for being able to speak with you, being a mom, and me being a dad, and a man and a woman, and two people on the same page, and seeing the infighting that's being created, the hate that's being created. And unfortunately, a lot of people are seeing red right now,
Yeah.
and they can't see that the majority of them are being played. What would
Yeah.
you say to anyone in this who comes across this podcast as a woman, as a mother, as who has children, stepchildren, who knows, who's been involved with the law and, like you said, public policy? What would you say to people if you could touch them on the shoulder and just sort of make them understand what it is you and I are talking about?
That's a hard question, Oprah. Thank you.
Yeah, like what is it you'd want to convey? What's the message for all this chaos, for people who are, you know, all the hate and anger and resentment? And a lot of these people are being sold this because they've either experienced a lot of pain. It's easy to control someone who's in pain, because you just grab the coattail of that pain and then feed them how they should
Yeah.
feel, and you're oppressed and
Yeah.
this and that, and you never feed them the truth. Um,
Well,
Tell
I
us.
can. Yeah, I can. And this is what I learned. I learned this from when I got divorced.
Mhm.
And the problem is when we're dealing with, like you said, a lot of people in these situations, the other person's a narcissist or an abuser, on some mental level, right? And then we have feelings, and we have anger, and we have hurt, and we have sadness. Well, my advice to a lot of people, just in general too, would be to feel those emotions.
Go through them.
You have to, because what happens when you're mentally and mentally and emotionally abused, or you deal with someone who's a bit, shows narcissist tendencies, they remove your empathy, because those people have no empathy. So
Right.
they really make you question your feelings,
Right.
and they make you question if you should be feeling those.
Right.
So it's so important to go through the motions of feeling these emotions, even if they're negative. You have to feel all of them. We're you can't sit there and be an entitled person and say, I only want to feel the good stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
We have to feel the negative ones. If it lasts a couple months or if it lasts a year, just feel it. Go
And that
through it.
creates that, not only that healing, but that coping mechanism. So you become a fuller, stronger, healthier person as you progress, and as things come up again, you know how to process it.
Yeah. And then when you come across someone else who's maybe going through a similar emotion, you now have that natural empathy in you because you felt it and you understand what it looks like and what it is.
Right.
So really, you just have to take the time to work on yourself. And I know it's really hard not seeing your children. I I could not imagine as a parent
I see
not seeing
them.
your
I
children.
see them every 2 weeks, and whenever she needs a favor,
Yeah.
and
But
I don't speak to them on the phone in between.
at the same time, though, it's a blessing in disguise when you're going through these emotions. You want to be able to go through them and live through them and do what you have to do to get through them without worrying about other people's emotions too.
Right.
Because that's what parents are, right? We deal with our own
Right.
emotions and then we deal with other people's emotions at the same
Exactly.
time.
We juggle. Yeah.
We juggle a lot. So just take the time, go through it, heal. Like you said, do some research. Get knowledgeable on different parenting skills, improve yourself, work on
Right.
yourself.
Right.
And that's really the best advice I have for anybody going through a really bad time
No, I
with
think
your
I think
family.
that's great. I think we need more healing words, and more conversations with moms and dads, and I always like to not only get like I said, you're the perfect guest. You check all the boxes. You're not just a bit of an expert in some realms, but you've gone through it yourself, and I'm obviously a man and a father,
Mhm.
and you're a woman and a mother, and the
Mhm.
two of us are going, we know that this is not good. So
Yeah,
we're the two healthy individuals. This is not a mom and dad thing, or you wouldn't see a mom and dad on here right now. What you're
correct.
seeing is two people who have been abused, broken, who are learning to heal themselves and educating themselves to fight a battle that's worth fighting, and doing it together and going, hey, moms and dads, because a lot of times I do bring up and you would agree, I've heard you say it, this has been predominantly an issue that's affected fathers, and it's not because it's about fathers or mothers, it's because the system itself has created it that way, because at the
Mhm.
time that was where most of the profiting was. Fathers made the most money. Well,
Right.
how do we sell the narrative? Well,
Yeah.
we just hit them with this, um uh what was it called, the whatever doctrine, I always forget the name of
The
it,
tender years doctrine.
the tender years which is the biggest
Mhm.
bunch of BS I've ever heard. And what that will do is validate the fact that women will take care of these kids, because government really doesn't want to take care of our kids.
Mhm.
They want you women to do it. And dad was predominantly earning at the
Mhm.
time this all was created. So in order to create that, they had to say mom's in the best interest of the kids from a nurturing standpoint, from a and dad's more the economic need.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's just how it is. And then we're going to get our piece of it. And
Yeah.
and so that's why it was created. People, I don't know if you know this, but Summer's going to sit right here and tell you right now, being a mom doesn't make you a good parent, and it doesn't make you the best parent. And
No.
being a dad doesn't make you the financial provider. These are lies that were sold to us. And we thankfully, we knew it. I grew up in a fairly, from divorce. My parents did a really good job considering. And my mom and dad weren't perfect, but they really never used us. They were terrible to each other at times, but we were never part of the equation to use as a weapon. That's becoming normalized now.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
And
And
they're telling
it has detrimental effects. I
now,
mean,
do you feel
it's
that we're telling women that they don't need fathers?
yeah. Oh, absolutely. I just wrote a paper regarding this very topic and how, the government can supplement everything now for women. They can supplement their food, their daycare, their jobs, their housing. And now they're on their way to supplementing fathers for
Mhm.
them also in terms of boyfriends and Head Start programs and, community members and organizations, everybody but dad. So
And this isn't
they're well on their
empowering
way.
women. Do
Mhm.
you feel that this is empowering women, or is it
No,
literally weakening
no,
a woman's individuality? A
yeah,
woman shouldn't have to bear the burden of children. You're forcing that ideal on them. A lot of women are struggling. They're not doing a good job. And they're not doing a good job, but they're getting income from it.
hmm
And these women are not doing anything with their lives because they're not letting the dads help who
right,
are willing.
absolutely, absolutely.
You want to go back to
I,
school, you want to
I,
do something with your
yeah,
life, I'm right here.
yeah. Let's have fun. Let's be healthy again. Feel those emotions. You have to move on. You have to grow. Moms want to go out too after divorce and blow off some steam and go on little mini vacations and work
Yeah.
and maybe go back to school to earn a better career, to buy a house, to provide for their family themselves, just like dad would do it. And right
Yeah.
now, without shared parenting, that's almost nearly impossible for women who have their kids 80% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's such an off balance. But again, this is about money. This isn't
hmm
about, I hate when they say best interest of the child, because it couldn't be the furthest thing from it.
Yeah, the best interest standard is no standard at all.
Exactly.
That's how I feel. it's it's
Well,
not a standard. Standards have measures. There's no measure to this.
Exactly. It's all interpretation.
Yeah.
The fact that a decision about our kids and our families is made based on, well, oh, it depends on who the judge is. First of all, the fact that you had to say that, the
Yeah.
fact that you said that means that judges shouldn't be involved.
Yeah.
If the well-being of my family is determinant on a judge's mood, on a judge's sex, on a judge's personal experience, or biased, or whatever. Honestly, I don't think 75-year-old judges should necessarily be making, parenting decisions for
No.
us. I think there should be a criteria. Again, I would abolish easily the entire family law system. I would get attorneys out of it. I would just, all you got to do is, you don't need, when I got a parking ticket the other day, right there, I don't need to go in front of a court to discern the fact that there was a rule. I broke that rule, and here's the consequence. With a parent, it's so vague. They leave it
Mhm.
so interpretive, um, that bad decisions are occurring every day. And usually, what's happening is it's a decision based on profit.
Yeah. Yeah. Excuse me. And
You're
also,
fine.
if we want to get rid of some of those vague orders and everything, feel free to message me. I'd be glad to type anybody up a 10-page custody order agreement that covers
She loves
everything
it.
from when they wake up in the morning to when they go to bed, and who gets who on, the hour 12.
So have you created a solid template for yourself so that's easier for you to plug and play that information?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
I
great. I
wrote,
need to take a look at that.
yeah, I wrote my fiance's custody order. If his ex ever found out, I'm sure we'd have a whole nother set of issues.
Not to put you on the spot, Summer, but since you reached out to the audience, would you do that for me? I have a custody trial coming up, and I need to come up with my custody agreement as well. So I could use some help with that.
Yeah, we could talk about it for sure.
I'd love some help. This pro se thing, trying to work, full time, trying to be a dad on the weekends, and fighting your own custody battle with limited to no money and not knowing all the legal ins and outs. It's stressful, and I want to say thank you, as a woman and as a mother from a father, for being such an activist actually for our children. And thank you for coming on. And I want to have all my guests on at least another time, because I feel like, and we never get to the root of any conversation in an hour. We just touch on everything. So I will reach out to you. We're gonna have you on again if you'd like to be, and let the audience know before we go what it is you're working on, and send us out.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you, Chris, for having me on. I really appreciate talking to you and talking to new fathers and parents all the time. It really is. Anybody can reach out to me. I'm an open ear. You can find me on Instagram at some.ob. I could share that information with you guys too in the comments. And you can also find me on Facebook at Summer O'Brien. I may not accept your friend request, but you're always free to send me a direct message and say hi, and we can talk about some issues and any services needed. And also, don't forget to check out the National Parents Organization. It's a plethora of information and resources for parents and anybody going through family issues and want to learn more about shared parenting, especially in New York State. We need your help. So if you're in New York State, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll put you to work calling senators and assemblymen.
That's awesome. Yeah. Put them to work, Summer.
Yeah. I'll put you to work.
No, did I spell it right there? It's some OB. I know we're Instagram friends, but I remember it was some. I remembered that. So it's some OB on Instagram. Also, you said you did have a Facebook page as well.
Yep, it's just Summer O'Brien.
All right. Yeah, I've reached out to Summer. I'm friends with Summer. Go be friends with Summer. Let's get together. Let's get the community together. Obviously, Summer's in New York. That's where I'm from. I'm living in North Carolina now. We work with people all over this country, and I think when we finally come together, they can't stop us. And let this be the last generation that has to deal with this. And I hope my sons don't have to deal with this, and your sons and your daughters don't have to go through this. We may lose a little bit of time here, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't get involved in the fight. Let's be the change that we need right now for families, kids, and parents. So thank you guys so much. Have a great evening. Summer, we'll talk to you next time.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.